Bench Opinions. Three idiots with amateur analysis.
Back to the rugby segment.
Yes, welcome to what will be a Wednesday for the rugby.
Correct.
And we hope you enjoyed the football segment yesterday. I'm on the couch with Claus today. Yesterday I was on the couch with Maxi. Just the way the cookie crumbled this week.
You know, there's some prior engagements.
Yeah.
And so we had to split it up. And Dominic's the rock that holds, or the glue that holds us all together.
Yes. Or the bitch of the podcast, whichever way you want to look at it. We move on, and it's the rugby segment this week. And the biggest news in rugby, and there's been a lot of build up to this, has been the Lions squad for the upcoming tour of Australia.
Yeah.
Give me a quick first impressions on your side.
Well, we've spoken about it on the podcast before, and who we thought was going to be the top 23 or the starting 23.
Quick note, we will definitely come back to our predictions and when that first 23 is announced. So we don't want to dive into that yet in case you're anticipating that. Already a couple players that haven't made it, but we'll get into that. Continue.
So obviously, I think the big omission of the squad is Prendergast. I think we were all kind of expecting him with his run at Leinster that he would make the cut. He did not. It was the Smiths and the Finns and Finn Smith that made the fly half selection. So I guess that's the big shock. Well, not shock, but that's a little bit of a shock for me. Yeah, I'd put that one up there. What about you?
A lot of noise around Owen Farrell not being selected.
Did you really think he was going to get selected?
No, I didn't think he was going to get selected. That was going to be my next point. Is I think a lot of that was just media, and I think it's very low hanging fruit considering his father's the coach of the British and Irish Lions. I think that very fact actually probably made the chances of him being selected or being an outside selection even smaller. I don't think Farrell is an idiot.
I can't imagine somebody, even if it is your father, going, this person has decided not to play international rugby, but let me select them for international rugby.
In Owen Farrell's defense, there were a lot of players that people were really talking about that are not currently international players. I saw a lot of people mentioned, guys saying, hey, this guy's coming back. Talk of even Courtney Laws being in the fold. So at least from that point of view, he wasn't the only one that, people were saying, listen, look outside that pool that you kind of used to because we want the best possible side.
Right.
Sometimes I wonder if this is a tour of New Zealand or South Africa. No disrespect to Australia, but I think they're also humble enough to understand that out of the three, probably currently the weakest. I think you might even have a bigger chance of someone from outside of this sort of solid pool being selected for whatever reason. But I think also hats off. This is a don of the cap to Farrell as well as a coach, because I think he's quite out the box as well. I think him and Rassie definitely pushed the boundaries of what we know as a traditional rugby coach, and therefore that's why I think people also believe or think that he has the imagination to kind of look outside. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's the right decision not to pick his son, given the permutations.
There's also a lot to be said for the way that Andy Farrell picks his teams. It's not necessarily the best players in the selection pool, but it's the best players in terms of versatility and fitting together as a squad.
Which is the biggest struggle, I think, and the biggest challenge for a British and Irish Lions coach. Obviously, a lot of these players, there's 15 Ireland players, to 10 England players in the squad. 8 Scots and then 2 Welsh. I think I got the numbers right. So something like that. So there are pockets of players that are used to playing with each other. If you bring in the club side of things as well, for example, Williams, Thomas Williams, who got one of the Welsh players that got picked place for Gloucester. So he's within the English rugby setup. So I think there obviously are building blocks that you can work with, but it is a big challenge to get a team playing good rugby going into a tour like this.
You've obviously got 4 different nations that all play different types of rugby, different styles of rugby as an international outfit. Do you think it's unfair that we always have this perception? That's the word. Thank you. Oh God. Do you think it's unfair that we have this perception of the British and Irish Lions team that they must perform better than the best England side or the best Irish side or the best Welsh and Scotland side because they are increasing their selection pool? Or do you think it's actually more difficult, almost like Barbarians rugby, difficult to get everybody under one umbrella operating the same way?
I think if you just look historically at the teams that they've been able to put together in the past and their results, going to that being said, historically, the three of the best rugby nations in the world on tour, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, have consistently been top rugby sides. And you look at their results, not that convincing, or never really convincing. They've picked up a couple wins here. Those wins often have been, for the traveling fans, amazing, for the players, amazing. And the British and Irish Lions carried a massive badge of honor for these players.
Absolutely.
And I think to this day, it is one of the highest honors if you're from one of these nations to be picked. But I think people, it's almost like an aspirational thing from because it is the dream scenario. It's the best players. But on paper, it's a brilliant group of players.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think it is difficult, and I think it's a weird combination of, it's unfair because it's just so difficult to get, such a team of players that all are so specialized with set piece scenarios and all these kind of things, like throw-ins and scrums and anything of that nature, playing good rugby. But then on the other side, it's you look at the team and you're like, these guys should wipe the floor with Australia. And I love the mystique of it because you're starting to hear, it's a very Australian thing as well, and I love them for it. But there's weird bits of confidence starting to creep out of the Australian rugby community. I think as they
game for that.
As they get closer to the tour, you're starting to hear, and all we need to do is find the halfback pairing. And and it's we've got some good forwards in there and some good backline players. We just need the halfbacks, and it's like, okay, yes, but I think but it's good to see because you want them with their tails up, and I hope Australia can get a win and not get a win in the last test as a symbolic win, but maybe a win in one of the first two games. That would be a cracker.
I mean, that would be amazing. But as you said, the British and Irish Lions tour is just steeped in so much history and honor, as you say, especially for the players from the British and Irish Lions team, but even more so for the teams that they play against or the nations that they play against, because it only comes around every 12 years for one of those
that's
three
crazy.
nations, right? If you happen to, if your career lines up with that space, where they come and they play in your country, that's a big deal for us as Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa as well.
Yeah, and I think it's the traveling fan base is insane. I think I remember being in the UK when they last traveled to Australia. Actually, no,
okay,
was it 16 years ago? I don't know. I think it was when they last traveled to Australia, so a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the UK and I remember seeing the amount of British and Irish Lions jerseys, and people were so into it, which it shocked me because I'm not, I was still very young and I wasn't quite familiar with it. But I think that is even more amplified when the traveling fans, they obviously, with it being a tour, they play a bunch of warm-up games and you kind of get on the piss and you just travel around a country. I think Australia is probably the toughest one because it's so fucking big.
Yeah.
But
long distances.
I think that whole experience just makes it one of a kind. And I think it gets right what the Barbarians just doesn't get right. Even the Barbarians is a lot of fun, and I think the people that get the biggest benefit out of playing for the Barbarians are just the players because they have the best time. But this gets it right in the sense that it's not just what feels like an exhibition match. There's a real run up, and it really means something.
Our biggest claim to fame when it comes to the British and Irish Lions tour is Dominic and I used to do a dance class.
This is true.
And there was a big Vienna waltz ball thing, and we all had to get dressed up in our tuxedos and whatnot, and we're running around it's like a hotel / shopping mall type thing, and it's all sort of interlinked. And we were running around trying to get booze
Yeah.
from all sorts of different bars. And we actually happened to stumble into the hotel where the British and Irish Lions were staying that
I
evening.
forgot that actually. You refreshed my memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we sat with like 4 or 5 of the guys.
Yeah, they looked broken.
Yeah, they were broken.
I think it was just after a game or
Yeah,
something.
it was pretty tough. And so I think back in the day, I think it's become a little bit more cush now, but back in the day, I think...
Because we were talking about like 2009, right?
Yeah. Back in the day, I think they also used to play some really rough teams in like rough neighborhoods. You know, like I think even in that tour, 2009, they still would have played teams like the Falke from Kempton Park and stuff.
EB Elephants.
And all that
sort
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they really did the hard yards. Now it's all a little bit more professional and a little bit more cushy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. Another very surprise omission is Darcy Graham. Didn't make the side. A lot of people being quite critical there.
What do you think that's based off of?
From what I've seen and read and kind of what I understand also from Andy Farrell's coaching is that they're generally just looking for physicality. And I think it's a smart way of approaching a British and Irish Lions tour is kind of looking for a certain profile of player because you know what you're going to get. And I think Darcy Graham just loses out because of the style of winger he is. And someone like, I think Kinghorn, a lot of people were saying they wouldn't have picked him. They would have taken Darcy Graham just because they
play different positions.
They play different positions, but there's enough fullbacks, they say, in the system. And from what I've seen is people have also said, why take Kinghorn? He's outside of the international fold.
Yeah.
Or he's outside of the Six Nations fold in terms of club rugby.
Yeah.
And they say it's a pity to see Darcy Graham lose out to someone that plays in the Pro 14.
Yeah. Well, outside of the Four Nations, yeah.
Yeah, Four Nations, sorry.
The only one, eh?
He's the only one, yeah.
It's the only one, which is quite interesting. I mean, I don't know how many of the British and Irish Lions, well, not necessarily the Lions, but the British and Irish players tend to go to the Pro 14. I mean, it's more of like end of career sort of stuff. Do they get paid enough in the URC? And
well, didn't Finn Russell go away for a while?
Finn Russell did.
He went away
for Racing, I think.
And I even think the last time around he missed out because of that.
Oh, did he?
I think so. Don't quote me on that. We'll have to see. But I think I remember it being, at least I remember it being a big topic of discussion as to whether he should. Let me check.
Well, let's talk about the fly halves whilst we're on Finn Russell. You got Finn Russell, Finn Smith, and Marcus Smith.
Yeah.
Pretty different playing styles.
True.
From each of them. I would say your Finn Russell is obviously the outright flair player. When it comes to like funky passes, weird lines, that kind of stuff. A little bit maybe uncontrolled at times. You got your Marcus Smith, who can also run the ball himself and runs extremely quickly and sort of can sometimes run away from the pack. And then you've got your Finn Smith, who is maybe the most stable, is a weird word, but like the most stable of the lot, almost like a George Ford kind of guy, but quite young. We've
spoke about this when we were talking about who might be in the 23. By the way, I've just pulled up. Finn Russell has only made one appearance for the British and Irish Lions.
In which year?
Well,
in
the entirety, 2017 to 2025. And that makes me think that he must have missed out somewhere. British, he made a brief and was elected. Oh no, so he, bowling instrumental man of the match performance, also was called up replacement. He was a replacement. Okay. In the first he was a replacement, so never mind. He didn't lose out because he played in France, but I remember it being a big discussion at the time. But he's still only made one appearance so far in three tours. This is going to be his third tour.
But that probably would have been during the era of like Owen Farrell.
Could be, yeah. I think we spoke about this when we spoke about the top, who's going to maybe end up in the first matchday squad. Marcus Smith for me is one that might just lose out because of his versatility, being able to play at 15 as well.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Between Finn Smith and Finn Russell, I like, just judging off what we were saying about the playing style and what the noise people are making around the type of rugby people expect Andy Farrell trying to play, I would think Finn Smith probably is just edges it at the moment.
Finn Smith.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, you guys both put your hands up and said Finn Russell has to be there and has to start. So, and I think there's an argument that can be made for that as well. yeah, people seem to think that Andy Farrell's going to err on the side of not caution, but on control and on very clear building blocks based on physicality and people that are good under the high ball. Yeah.
Look, when we did that video, it was a couple, maybe even like a month or two back now.
Yeah.
It's quite a while back. And then you sort of see how Finn Smith is just getting better and better in the Champions Cup. So, I mean, he's definitely put me on the fence about who's going to get picked. Let's see what happens in the finals.
Yeah.
Because that could also sway not only our decision, or our opinion, but also the opinion of Andy Farrell.
Another interesting sort of play in all of that is the fact that not arguably, I'd say the best number 9 is Irish, and he does not have an Irish counterpart who can slot in at the 10. And combinations are exactly...
Is he Irish?
Well, yeah. He said that. But yeah, he Jamison Gibson Park is, I would say, I saw someone recently in a video like talk about other scrum halves from the Four Nations, and I was like, he's heads and shoulders above.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's heads and shoulders above any other scrum half that he could have picked from. So that's quite interesting as well, because you usually look for combinations, I feel, if you're picking a British and Irish Lions team. And so he's going to either have to play someone else, which I very much doubt, in that number 9 role. And then Gibson Park and one of those 10s are going to have to find a way to play together.
Who is the other? Alex Mitchell.
Thomas Williams.
Williams, yeah. Okay, yeah. So those 3 then.
Exactly. And I just don't see Alex Mitchell's. I don't see anyone keeping Gibson Park out of that team.
No, yeah, I mean he's leaps and bounds ahead of the rest. I mean, I would argue together with Antoine Dupont. I mean, he's that good.
Yeah, he's really good.
I'm not saying he's better than Antoine Dupont, but he's like right up there with him.
Yeah, he's right up there, and I think he's in a little bit more of a traditional number 9, and he reminds me a lot of Farid Priya, and I really like that as well. So it'll be interesting to see there.
Is that the lack of hair?
Yeah, I think so, kind of. But yeah, just really good with the ball in hand as well, and quick to the breakdown, good distribution, just really all-round good scrum half. Like maybe like Dupria was someone that never looked like he had a lot of X factor, but could really change games. And Gibson Park kind of gives me the same vibe on that front. Another thing we said is we predicted Hugh Jones and Tui Piloto to start in that first game. They're there. Freeman has to start in that side. He's on fire.
He's definitely the most in form out.
A lot of talk around Pollock as well. He gets into the side too. Yeah.
He must be the youngest player in the squad.
Yeah, 20 years old. He's a no-brainer at 8 now, I would say.
Let's talk about the captaincy. You got Mauro Toji. You've obviously got other guys in that squad who have got a lot of captaincy experience, like the likes of Keelan Doris. Who's
injured, though. Doris is out because he's injured.
Is he out?
Yeah, he's completely out. He had to get a shoulder operation, so that would have been the main...
shit.
Yeah, that would have been the main... I would say the main argument against Mauro Itoje. I think if Keelan Doris is on that flight, he plays, and he captains.
I could have... Yes, okay. I'm all over the place. My bad. I'm sorry. Hand up accountability.
That's right.
It's the thing that we do here. Okay, so then has the vice captain been announced?
No, not to my knowledge. I know there was massive fanfare around. Well, not massive fanfare, but Mauro Itoje was announced. He seemed to be split down the middle of whether he should be captain or not for various reasons.
Okay, what would the reasons be against him?
People just say that he's been too lax. Like he had a good Six Nations, but also makes too many errors. And with them taking 6 locks to down under, does he really get into the top 2 locks? So people kind of questioning whether he should be starting.
Which is weird because didn't he play the most amount of minutes out of any player of the entire competition in the Six Nations?
But I think Itoje is generally someone that tends to split opinion. I think his whole career, for whatever reason. Maybe it was the whole he got an apartment thing at Saracens. Maybe people got upset with him. It's like, I can't give you more money, but I
can give you things.
I have this house that you will really like. But yeah, so Maro Itoje is the captain. I think it's a good decision. Again, I also think it's a brave decision in the sense that I think he's the right personality, knowing that it might split opinion, but I think he can definitely galvanize. And he seems like a leader to me. I think he stood out for England. He was so good in the Six Nations, so I don't see why not. And if you go on this physicality train that Andy Farrell wants to, apparently, this is all just speculation, wants to get on, then he's the perfect lock to get physical.
Playing devil's advocate, who would you pick as an alternate captain? Because I'm going through that list and...
Well, funny enough, too much ridicule when we were looking at the 23. For me, I wouldn't have been surprised if Bandiaki got picked as captain. Yeah. Just because he's the old wise head.
Right.
Captain's connect, I think, as well. So he's obviously got captain material. And would have been sort of another one that's kind of high profile, I would say, like a Toje. But I think if you're trying to, it makes sense to have a forward as a captain.
Yeah, I was about to say, for me, I know centers are often captains, and I think that's because they sort of, I don't know, I might be talking on my ass here, but I think it's because they're a little bit more part of like the defensive setup. They're a little bit closer to because they're centers, a little bit closer to the middle of the field where the ref is also running around. But more so than that is obviously your forwards, right? Part of the scrum, part of the line out. They're always going to be closest to the ref. For me, looking at that list, the other name that pops out and has also captained before is Ellis Genge.
Yeah.
He's got a very sort of like mellow vibe about him. But I think that goes a long way, especially when you're talking with a ref. You don't want to have a hot-headed guy running in there just screaming for penalties and stuff.
And I think a lot can be said for any of that senior stock of Irish players. I don't think anyone would have argued if even someone like Van der Fleer or Porter or Sheehan or ended up being who Andy Farrell went for. But yeah, I think also, it's a difficult thing to navigate, I think, as a British and Irish Lions coach, because there's so much noise around it. It's like, how do I, how much of the noise do you follow to sort of appease people and make decisions that at least within the public make sense and therefore don't have to be explained away? And how much do you go, okay, no, this is the way I want to do it and this is the way I want to go? And I feel like Maro Itoje as captain is kind of a good middle ground of saying, a lot of people are saying he should be captain. There's a lot of people that are saying he shouldn't. But like, I think when Mara's name was mentioned, we'd spoken about him as being a potential captain. And therefore, I think for a lot of people, it wouldn't be a crazy surprise. It's one less thing to kind of try and justify and move on to getting the team ready for the Tour Down Under.
For sure.
I don't want to do out and out predictions because Maxi's not here, and we will maybe do it.
We'll do that when he's here.
But what is your feeling at the moment? Gut feel. What are you looking at the side? I don't think Australia have announced their squad yet. Even if they do, I don't know who the fuck they are. So with this British and Irish Lions team going into the Tour of Down Under, screw the warm-up games. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. 3
tests against Australia. What are you feeling?
It was actually irrelevant which team was going to be selected for the British and Irish Lions team. I think everybody is going in thinking that the British and Irish Lions are going to take it, whether that be 2-3 or whether that be a full grand, what's it called, clean wipe, clean, what are they called?
Clean sweep.
Clean sweep, there we go. The ones on the counter, the ones on the floor. The thing is, as you jokingly said earlier on, where you're like, whoever they choose for the Australian team, who the heck knows who they are anyway. I think that's the problem. I think we've been watching the Six Nations, we've been watching URC, we've been watching Champions Cup, that we've like really gotten to know the Northern Hemisphere teams and players, that I think that might be Australia's sort of dark horse moment, that they could maybe come and do something that was not expected. I mean, if you look at the end of year tour last year, they didn't do too badly. I think they won 2 or 3 of their games that they played. So I mean, they are definitely on the up and up. I don't think they're right at the top of their game. I think there's still definitely room to grow, but that's the thing that makes me a little bit uncertain.
Yeah.
It could go either way.
Yeah, I find it, first of all, hard to even remotely support Australia at any sport. So that's the first issue, if I'm being very honest.
But don't you feel the same way about England?
Yes. That's why I rarely support England. but I like I said.
But now this is diluted England, so
yeah,
now it's okay again.
Like I said, I really want to see. No, I won't support the British and Irish Lions either. But my
support good rugby.
Yeah, no, my feeling is I want to see a good tour, and I think for global rugby it would be cool to see the Australians put up a fight. With the next World Cup being in Australia as well, there's been a big drive from Australian rugby after the terrible showing by the side in the World Cup and then the years before that, of really trying to get that sport back up and running. There's been some interesting stories out of Australia as well. Rugby league saying, "Hey, listen, we're doing really well. Let's try and join forces to share facilities, for example, with the side in Perth."
Okay.
There's been some news on that. We can cover it some other time. But there's a huge drive by the Australian rugby community to say, like, we need to get back up on top. So
yeah,
I think that it will bear fruit, because Australia is a very rich country and a very, very sporting, competitive country and a sporting nation. But I think this might just be coming a little bit too soon in their evolution as a side. Potentially. Having said that, I think it's a great opportunity to really kickstart interest in, or continue to kickstart interest in, rugby union in Australia. And for that reason, I really hope that they can put up a fight. Ideally put up a fight in the sense that if they do win a game, it's not the dead rubber third test match. But I think there's a 70 to 30% chance that happens in favor of the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't even know if I want to talk about this, if we're just going to get lambasted for any of the comments that I say after now.
Like we haven't been lambasted before.
Should we maybe look at the amount of Southern Hemisphere born players in the squad?
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Do you think that's a conscious decision, or do you think those players just happen to be the informed, versatile choice?
I think if you look at this team as a whole, I think it's hard to argue that it's not just the best of the crop. And so therefore I don't see him picking James Lowe, because James Lowe is from the Southern Hemisphere.
Right.
I think it's pretty, how do you say it? It's pretty stark how many they are.
Yeah.
And without lingering too much on it, it just is a fact that there's a shit ton of non Four Nations, we'll call it, rugby players in the side. And also not insignificant ones. You know, if you look at it, Duan van der Merwe probably starts at left wing, most likely. And probably Freeman at 14. So Duan starts, Tui Pilotu has a great chance of starting.
Yeah.
James Lowe, if Duan doesn't start, James Lowe starts. Some of them I don't even know, but Mac Hansen is also not.
He's Australian.
He's Australian. Yeah. Then you've got Gibson Park, who's also,
and he's definitely starting.
Yeah, Gibson Park definitely starts. Bandiaki, great shot as well at outside center there.
Yeah.
It's outside? No, inside. Sorry, inside center.
I think he plays both.
Both. Piers Skuman, also great shot in the front row.
If at least off the bench.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of them there, and so it's not like they're just filling in the numbers.
Sander Ferguson as well. Not Ferguson. Sorry, what am I talking about? No, it's just Piers Skuman.
Yeah, Piers Skuman front row. Yeah. But so let's see. We're not just talking about people filling up the numbers. They form a core part of this team. I'd argue also in a lot of cases the X factor of the side. Duan van der Merwe 100% X factor. Sione Tuipolatu X factor. Gibson Park is an X factor, number 9. Skuman is an X factor prop as well. The way he carries is not your run of the mill. So it will be very interesting to see how many of them end up starting. Yeah. And that down under, in Australia they're gonna make a lot of noise. Those players are gonna hear it.
No,
that's for sure.
Of course. half of them play cricket, so they're quite used to the shit talk and the banter and the.
Yeah.
But it should be good. I think we've dwelled on this for long enough.
Yes.
I would like to give an honourable mention to the oldest and best looking sideburns that has ever graced the pitch of rugby. Brock Harris
Yeah.
has, I want to say, has had to retire in an untimely fashion, only due to the fact that he injured himself. And as he's nearing the end of his career, that's not an injury that he's going to be coming back from. He is 39?
Yeah. 400 professional games of rugby.
400 professional games of rugby. That's a ton of rugby.
Particularly considering you also didn't play international rugby. So
Just club rugby.
just club rugby.
Or
So
franchise rugby.
400 games.
Yeah.
About almost split about half between Western Province Stormers and Cardiff.
Yeah.
But it was time.
It was time. I mean, dude, still playing incredibly well.
He did well. Also, one of those guys that learned how to adapt to his strengths as his career went on. But yeah, incredible career, and hats off to him.
Yeah, hurt his knee in the previous week. Came out with a brace on with his family, his wife, his 3 kids. One kid is almost as tall as he is, and then had the guard of honor with both the Stormers and the Dragons who they played against.
Yeah.
So that was quite cool. And then obviously he played in Cardiff for such a long time, so probably also quite nice for him to have the sort of Welsh guys out there as well.
Yeah.
Another honourable mention also to the Stormers is Damian Willemse. He played his 100th his 100th cap for the Stormers.
Mm-hmm.
Scored a try, got it chalked off, went and scored another one. And I think he beat 10 defenders on the weekend.
Seems to be, it's a watershed period in his career now. I think I was shocked to find out that he's 27 already.
Yes.
I thought he was a little bit younger, just for whatever reason. But he seems to have understood that he's going to have to really start playing his best rugby now. And it seems like he has. And there's so many shouts for him to be playing. I've heard shouts for him to play at outside centre. People looking at how they fit him into the Springbok setup.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you've got to look at a guy like Damien Dialende, also, slowly getting a little bit older.
Yeah.
And he might make the next World Cup, but after that, who's next in line? And Damien Willemse has been with the team for such a long time.
Yeah.
He is a good shot, and he plays inside centre for the Stormers. So
yeah, interesting. Let's see. I mean, we just hope that it's not his versatility that kills him, or maybe doesn't.
Or maybe that's what saves him.
Maybe saves him. It could be. It could go either way. Last little bit of a quote. Interesting. You get quite a few players in Springbok rugby where over the years you look back and you're like, not finding their best position was what cost them their careers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the quotes this week from Peter de Villiers on Ruan Pienaar. Peter de Villiers, I struggle to take him seriously.
Well, that's the other thing.
9 times out of 10, but he was on a pretty good podcast recently talking about his career, and at the end of the day, the guy actually had a pretty successful tenure as Springbok coach. If you look at his numbers, it wasn't the worst. There's been a few others, but he spoke about Ruan Pienaar and how his biggest regret in his coaching career was never getting the potential out of Ruan as a fly half, actually.
Okay.
Believing that that the fact that they forced him into that 9 position just to get him in the team cost him what he believes is could have been the Springbok with some of the biggest potential in the world. So interesting bit of comment. So let's hope that doesn't happen to Damien Willemse.
Hopefully not. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
If you missed yesterday's episode, Dominic and Maxi had a good conversation about the football.
Foosball. Yeah.
And so go check that out. Like and subscribe. If you've got any comments on who you think was a shock omission from the British and Irish Lions side, or who you think is in the side and shouldn't be there, give us a shout. Let us know. And we will see you tomorrow.
Bye.